Good morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now. Silver lining as America experiences a Delta variant-fueled surge in COVID cases with numbers not seen since last summer. Good news this morning on the vaccination front. 70% of adults have now received at least one shot, a Biden administration goal, but it comes 1 month after the July 4th deadline they had set. This as Senator Lindsey Graham tests positive despite being fully vaccinated. His message on the importance of getting the shot. And in Tokyo, a bronze lining legendary gymnast Simone Biles marked her much anticipated return to competition with a stunning balance beam performance that left spectators and social media in awe just hours ago. Coming out of the event with the bronze, we've got all you need to know, including the record she just tied this morning. Back to work as COVID infections soar once again. Pressure is on America's largest employers to sway returning office workers into getting their shot. What some experts believe will be a green light for company-wide vaccination mandates. And the not-so-friendly skies. Thousands of travelers across the country left stranded as Spirit Airlines grappled with a wave of canceled flights. A look at why the already battered industry can't seem to find its wings, even in the midst of summer travel season. That is quite a mess.
Yeah, it's an issue, and Spirit's been hit hard, but all the airlines are really suddenly having to go back to full force, and it's not easy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really not. So we'll have more on that a little bit, but we're going to start this morning with the positive, a major milestone in the fight against COVID.
70% of adults in the U.S. have now received at least one dose of the coronavirus vaccine. President Biden had hoped to reach that goal by July 4th, nearly 1 month ago. This comes as the infection rate continues to trend up. You can see from this graph here, the average right now is nearly 75,000 new cases a day. That's higher than the peak from last summer before the U.S. had a vaccine. NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns is tracking these developments. So, Dasha, health officials are hardly celebrating that 70% vaccination milestone. What's their message right now with this alarming increase in cases?
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, that milestone coming alongside some troubling trends. At a White House briefing yesterday, the CDC director acknowledged that while we all want to be done with COVID-19, it is not done with us, and that this battle needs to last a bit longer. But the main message remains that vaccination is key. Take a listen.
I want to be clear. While vaccinated people can spread the virus if they get a breakthrough infection, the odds of them getting sick in the first place are far lower than those who are unvaccinated. And in fact, places with more vaccination generally have less disease.
And of course, while breakthrough infections are possible, the numbers of when it comes to deaths and hospitalizations, the vast majority of those are among the unvaccinated, about 98 to 99%, Joe.
And because of this rise, cities and states across the country are now starting to consider, or in some cases even implement, new mask and vaccine mandates. Where are we seeing some of these mandates?
Yeah, a big announcement this week here in New York. Both the governor and the mayor of New York City said they strongly encourage masks in indoor settings, regardless of vaccination status. But they did stop short of mandating it. Officials say that's because they want the full focus to really be on the vaccination effort. Here's Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Mask policy will be important, but I don't believe a mask policy is going to be enough. I think we're going to have to talk about a vaccination policy.
He also called on cities to make vaccinations mandatory in schools and public hospitals. But meanwhile, Joe, the Bay Area, most counties there are taking a different approach. They are reinstating the mask mandate for all indoor settings, regardless of vaccination status. And that mandate begins today.
Of course, schools in some states won't be able to do that because lawmakers in those states are not allowing for mask mandates. Well, I have you. I do want to talk about Senator Lindsey Graham. He tested positive for COVID-19 despite being fully vaccinated. This is one of those rare breakthrough cases we've been reporting on. So I guess, how is he doing this morning, and what does he have to say about being the Senate's first known breakthrough case?
Yeah, Senator Graham said he started to feel flu-like symptoms on Saturday and then went to the U.S. House physician on Monday morning. And yesterday afternoon, he put out a tweet saying, "I feel I have a sinus infection, and at present time, I have mild symptoms. I will be quarantining for 10 days. I am very glad I was vaccinated, because without vaccination, I am certain I would not feel as well as I do now. My symptoms would be far worse." Again, underscoring the need for vaccination there.
Yeah, key message to get across there. Dasha Burns, thanks so much for starting us off this morning.
Now, as health officials warn of a growing number of breakthrough cases, as you just heard, hospitals are seeing a rise in the number of kids with the virus, many of whom, though, are too young to get vaccinated. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us now from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Morgan, good morning. So tell us about the types of patients hospitals there are seeing.
Well, we're certainly seeing a far different type of patient than we did this time last year. The elderly folks have been vaccinated at this point in time, and so about 50% of everyone admitted into Our Lady of the Lake Hospital, the largest in the state of Louisiana, are under the age of 50. And yes, contained within that group are kids. We know that right now there are 163 patients inside this hospital admitted for COVID. That is the highest number that they have seen at any point during the pandemic. Within that number, there are 8 children, which may not sound like a lot, but when you consider the fact that this virus was not even thought to have really initially presented a problem for younger folks, it's concerning to doctors, especially when you see children, their youngest patient, 4 weeks old, having difficulty breathing, in some cases having to be placed in intensive care. And that's why they say that vaccinations are so incredibly important. As you mentioned, some of those kids still ineligible for the vaccine. But if you are 12 years old or older, you can get the shot. And that's why they're urging everyone in this community to do so, because the numbers are still trending upwards before they go back down.
Now, Morgan, I know that you've been speaking with people, some hospital staff in the ICU there. What are they saying about the messaging around vaccinations? What are they hearing from people about why they're potentially still refusing to get the shot, those that are eligible at this point?
Right. Well, medical staff here says they believe there was a bit of a disconnect, right? And I had a chance to speak to a woman yesterday who is not in intensive care, but she is in the hospital, has been there for a week today from COVID-19. And when I said she's 44 years old, she qualified for the shot, she chose not to get it. And I asked her directly, why not? She says she was concerned that because she was diabetic, she was uncertain of how the vaccine would impact her blood sugar levels. And instead of perhaps taking the initiative to reach out to a doctor and just kind of really confirm whether or not there would be a huge issue, she chose not to do anything. And as a result, now she's in the hospital. I'm going to hear what the chief medical officer here for Our Lady of the Lake had to say when asked that same question. Take a listen. To have someone struggling to breathe from COVID asking for a COVID vaccine, how does that hit you?
It's the same way it hits you when somebody finally asks for insulin when you cut their foot off. The same way it hits you when somebody says, I wish I had stopped smoking when they're dying of lung cancer. It's a medical education failure, and it's sad, and it's all of our faults. And the next step is to say, I'm going to get out of the room and go figure out how to tell the story a different way, because we have to reach more people as quickly as possible.
And you can just hear the frustration in her voice. The numbers, again, projected to go up here in Louisiana. They have the bed space here at this hospital. What they don't have is the staff to handle this surge of patients. They're very thankful for a federal team that arrived over the weekend and is already hard at work assisting the nurses and doctors as needed. But if the numbers continue to go up, they're going to need more people.
Yeah. Hearing her call it a medical education failure that's something really interesting, especially as so many states have been trying to tackle reaching people where they are to try to get them that information from people that they trust. So, Morgan, you mentioned that the numbers are projected to go up. As that's happening, the state governor just reinstated the mask mandate. I know that's something that's divided people in this state since the early days of the pandemic. How's that being received right now?
You know, it's very interesting. Governor John Bel Edwards making that announcement yesterday, saying that anyone who goes indoors needs to mask up, vaccinated or not vaccinated, very similar to the rule we saw issued in Los Angeles a short time ago. And what's very interesting is that we arrived here in Baton Rouge over the weekend. about 24 hours prior to that announcement being made. And we went into coffee shop, restaurant, and I was struck by how many people were wearing masks on their own prior to that that mandate being issued by the governor. I had a chance to actually speak to a young woman in a Starbucks who was masked up prior to that announcement being made. And everyone's very cognizant of the fact that the numbers are rising back up here in Louisiana. Even people who are vaccinated have heard about the breakthrough cases, and nobody wants to have to deal with COVID yet again. So at least at this point in time, it doesn't feel like this mandate is being met with the same resistance that we saw when maybe the first one was issued in that initial wave of COVID-19. And so we can only hope that going forward, people realize that this is a necessary step to curb the spread of the virus. Savannah?
Yeah, our colleague Kathy Park had similar reporting from here in New York City yesterday that people are wearing them even though they're not required. As you said, no one wants to deal with this again. Morgan, thank you so much.
A new survey shows a majority of Americans support bringing back guidelines for masks and social distancing. A Monmouth University poll found 52% of Americans support the move, while 46% are opposed to it. I want to bring in Dr. Leo Nisola, immunotherapist, scientist, and medical advisor to COVID Act Now and the National Convalescence Plasma Project. Doctor, good to have you with us. You know, that same Monmouth poll also found 17% of Americans are still opposed to getting any COVID vaccine. So what do you think about this? Can bringing back masks and social distancing help get things under control, or do we really need to convince more Americans to get the shot?
Good question. I think we need to flatten the curve once again. And I think more than ever, the message has become clearer. The CDC is right. Masks protect you from getting infected with the virus. Now, with the Delta variant on a surge, it's important that folks understand the ability of these vaccines to curb the infection from becoming a severe disease. So get vaccinated. And use a good quality mask while doing indoors or while outside with folks outside from your household. It's very important. I think what we've learned from the outbreaks from Provincetown is that the vaccines are doing a terrific job about curbing the virus from becoming a more severe disease because we are not seeing an increase from hospitalization from those folks that are already fully immunized. However, to avoid Delta, it's very important to wear a good quality mask. And I think we should be seeing more and more messaging around that.
You know, the recent increase in cases is raising concerns about the return to school, where many students are just too young to get vaccinated right now. What do you expect to see happen in the fall? And do you think kids can get back in the classroom safely?
I think we've talked about this in the past, and I think teachers should be prioritized as far as immunization goes, and they have been. So by this time, I would expect that most teachers are already fully immunized and protected from the severe disease. At the same time, kids need to go back to school. So until they are able to receive a COVID shot to protect them from developing severe disease, the safety precautions should be in place to allow for school reopening.
And let's talk about booster shots. We know Israel is now offering citizens a third dose of the vaccine. We're learning Germany plans to do the same next month. Do you think the U.S. should follow suit? And what does that mean when it comes to vaccine equity, with so many other countries still behind on trying to get citizens vaccinated?
That's right. Well, Israel, the UK, Germany have already actively started approaching the population to offer a third shot or a booster shot. Now, what's important here is that the CDC has stopped monitoring and reporting breakthrough COVID cases that are not serious in May. What that does to us, though, is that it doesn't allow us to understand where those breakthrough cases are more likely to occur. So we could tailor then the availability for these booster shots for specific populations that might benefit from them. Right now, the only information we have is that folks with underlying conditions are more likely to develop waning immunity. But we don't know for sure. And the data there should clarify that for us.
All right. Dr. Leo Nisola, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are playing the blame game over a failure to reinstate the eviction moratorium, which expired on Saturday. The White House has been pressuring the CDC to extend the measure amid a sharp rise in COVID-19 cases. The president's senior advisor, Gene Sperling, told reporters the CDC was unable to find legal authority and urged states to move faster to distribute that emergency aid.
And the president has continued to stress that state and local governments must do more, all of them, to accelerate the funding to these renters and landlords. There is simply no excuse, no place to hide for any state or locality that is failing to accelerate their emergency rental assistance fund.
NBCNews.com senior White House reporter Shannon Pettypiece is with us now from Washington. Shannon, good morning. So has the White House hit a wall here over the re-implementation of this eviction moratorium? I mean, where can this go from here?
Well, they're saying there's not really much more they can do as far as extending this eviction moratorium. They said they've, kicked the tires was one of the phrases they used to figure out if there was anything else the CDC could do or other agencies could do legally. But they said they're really bound by this recent Supreme Court ruling. The White House, though, says they are not giving up on efforts to try and keep people in their homes. And a lot of the focus instead has been on trying to get this emergency rental assistance out to people. That was money that was in that COVID relief package passed in March. Billions of it, they say, have gone out to state and local governments, but the money has not all been distributed to the people who need that to help pay for their rent. So, they say that for months now, they have been trying to work with state and local governments to help get that out there to sort of reduce the burdens for people on qualifying for that aid. But that's really where the focus is turning now, rather than trying to find another way around this eviction moratorium.
So let's dig in on this aid package. $46.5 billion. It was meant to help renters, therefore helping landlords. But so much of this, as you just mentioned, has not been distributed. So Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is expected to brief House Democrats today on why so many billions of dollars of rent relief still haven't been spent. They still haven't been distributed. What can we expect to hear there? And do we know how the government is planning to help renters now?
Well, the White House has been placing a lot of the blame on that front on state and local governments, saying that they have not made it a priority and they really have not done enough to get this money out there. So expect to hear messaging from that as well. But the administration says they are trying to do things to make it easier for people to qualify for this. For example, before you had to show an eviction notice before you could qualify. And they said, well, by the time you get an eviction notice, that's kind of too late in the process to stay in your home. So trying to let people get qualified for this aid sooner, trying to make it less complicated to apply and sort of lower some of those burdens that had been there under the Trump administration.
And meanwhile, while this has all been going on, Congresswoman Cori Bush has been sleeping on the steps of the Capitol in protests over the fact that there's been no action here. What's she saying?
Yeah, she was really urging the White House to take some action on this. She's been urging Congress to take some action, but she too acknowledged that really there's a lot of people involved who can take some action here. Here's a little bit more of what she had to say.
We're not just leaving it on the White House. We're asking for Congress. We're asking House leadership to reconvene us, bring us back because this is our job. We can't go on recess. We can't go on vacation when millions of people's lives are at risk.
And essentially her message there is she doesn't care who fixes it. She just wants it to get fixed so people can stay in their homes.
All right, Shannon Pettypiece, thank you so much. Turning now to the Olympics, where Simone Biles has once again made history when she made her highly anticipated return to competition in just the last few hours.
Yeah, the GOAT is taking home the bronze medal in the individual balance beam event. This is her 7th Olympic medal overall. Biles is now tied with Shannon Miller for the most medals won by a U.S. gymnast in Olympic history. The win, of course, comes just days after Biles bowed out of competition. Let's bring in NBC News senior national correspondent Tom Yamas, who is in Tokyo with the latest. And Tom, boy, the joy on Simone Biles' face when she dismounted, really was what this was all about. On top of that, she gets the bronze. We should point out this isn't her strongest event. She got the bronze in this event in Rio, but break down her performance. What does this win mean for her? And could this be the end of her Olympic career?
Yeah, let's start at the end. When you mentioned that smile, I asked her about that, and she said she was beaming because she was so happy that she nailed her landing. I spoke to her right after the event, and she told me that she was nervous coming in here. And you got to imagine there was mounting pressure. There was a lot of questions. But she marched in here, and she reminded us all of why she's a champion. She got up on that beam. She had a great routine. She nailed her landing. She tells me she was nervous at first, but once she got on the beam, she was in the zone. She obviously didn't have a lot of twisting because of that issue she's had, the twisties, where she sort of loses her place in the air, but she was really happy with her performance. She told me she actually had to be medically cleared before she was able to compete today. So she had to undergo medical evaluations and meetings with sports psychologists just to get here. She said she wanted to show the world that she's a fighter.
Oh, gosh, she certainly is. We all already knew that, though, but it was so cool to get to see her actually back out there tonight. All right, the men's basketball team is moving on to the semifinals after a rocky start. We all remember. So what more can you tell us about their quarterfinals game against Spain? How's it looking for Team USA?
Yeah, Team USA finally got their act together. They beat Spain. They knocked Spain out of the Olympics. Are now headed, as you mentioned, to the semifinals. Kevin Durant had 29 points. You know, Team USA's team is stacked with NBA players, but Spain had a lot of NBA players as well, so they're a very good team. So now they advance to the semifinals. On the women's side, they remain undefeated. I think they've won 52 Olympic games in a row right now. They're headed into the quarterfinals against Australia. They're still in the hunt for that gold medal, guys.
And Tom, we want to ask you about what's considered one of the most dramatic moments of the Olympics so far. That's the men's 400-meter hurdle in track and field. Break down the race for us.
Yeah, some are calling this the best 400-meter hurdle race ever in the history of the Olympics. Basically, what happened was you had this neck-and-neck race between Rai Benjamin for Team USA, along with Norway's Karsten Warholm, who has the world record. I mean, these two guys were going at it. They were so fast. This was the fastest 400-meter hurdles ever. Rai ended up coming in silver. He got second place. But Warholm actually broke his own record at 45.94 seconds. Just to give you guys an idea, that's one lap around the track in 45 seconds plus hurdles. That's how fast those guys were going. But a great race. America coming up second, but we are still celebrating that because it was such an awesome moment here in the Olympics, guys.
Yeah.
It really was. Somewhat. Yeah. It's funny with the time difference. It's so wild that Simone, we already got to see her this morning.
I know.
You know, this has already happened, and she's won bronze.
And she's going to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we get to watch it later in prime time. I can't wait to see more of it.
All right. Tom, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Time for a check on your morning news now weather.
With Janessa Webb this morning. Hey, Janessa.
Hey, good morning. Man, everybody's winning this morning. What a wonderful start. And, you know, the weather is not winning, though, across areas of the deep south. It's going to be a really, really tough day. We have flash flood concerns across the Florida Panhandle into the mid-Atlantic. And you can see all that green. That's heavy bands of rain that are going to continue for at least the next 24 hours across this region of the country. Now, if you're across Raleigh-Durham, South Carolina, Columbia area, it's 1 to 2 inches we're forecasting, but coastal areas, man, it's going to pick up this afternoon, 3 to 4 inches, some isolated spots up to 5 inches. And we have this front that continues to seep across this area. It's causing some cooler air. It's a fall feel that we're dealing with across most of the East Coast. Well, that will change as we go into late week. But this system will continue to make its way offshore. A little bit of rain going to be involved across D.C. into the Jersey area as we go into tomorrow. Even for the Pacific Northwest, we have flash flood watches that are currently in place. It is monsoon season, and so we're seeing 2 inches per hour rainfall rates. Now we're dealing with record rain for Tucson to the Flagstaff area. Last season, it was non-soon. Now it's monsoon, and we are seeing a good dose of rain, 8 inches in parts of Tucson, and that includes the first number one wettest record on July for this area. And so we're going to continue to watch this area across the Pacific Northwest. But coming up, we do have another heat wave across this area. So we'll talk about that, guys.
All right. Thanks, Janessa.
See you in a bit.
Coming up, we'll take you to Turkey, where an environmental crisis is currently unfolding.
Yeah, the latest on the massive wildfires engulfing the Middle Eastern country up next.
Fighting continues across several cities and towns in Afghanistan. In the country's second largest city, Kandahar, the Afghan military is battling to repel the Taliban. Now the U.S. is sounding the alarm over possible war crimes.
And meanwhile, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says America has proof that Iran was responsible for a drone attack on an Israeli-owned tanker last week. NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell has more on both of these stories.
Savannah and Joe, the State Department is accusing the Taliban of massacring civilians in Afghanistan that can amount to war crimes. Secretary of State Tony Blinken is also opening a new visa program for Afghans who have worked for U.S. companies, contractors, and human rights groups. But to apply, they have to get past dangerous Taliban checkpoints to third countries, and then they have to wait for up to 14 months for approval. Blinken also says they now have proof that Iran carried out a fatal drone attack on an Israeli-owned tanker off the coast of Oman last week. Blinken promises a coordinated response from the U.S. and Israel and Great Britain, which, along with Romania, lost 2 sailors. Iran is denying all responsibility. Savannah and Joe.
All right, our thanks, Andrea Mitchell. Villages and beach resorts are being evacuated in parts of Southeast Europe as wildfires continue to blaze across the region. One of the hardest hit countries, Turkey, launched an international appeal for water-dropping planes to battle the flames. 8 people have died. At least 129 wildfires across 30 provinces have been reported. And while most have been put out, the seaside towns of Bodrum and Marmaris are still under threat. Let's now take a look at what else is making news around the world this morning.
NBC News reporter Matthew Botter joins us now. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Let's start with some concerning news out of the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, where authorities this morning reported that a Belarusian dissident who went missing yesterday was found dead in a park near his home. They say that he was actually hung. And we're talking about the head of an NGO that helps Belarusian exiles find their footing in foreign countries. His name is Vitaly Shishov. So he helps these guys out after they leave Belarus to places like Poland and Ukraine and so on. So we're keeping a very close eye on that story. Moving on along, a big win in German court for the chocolate maker Lindt. They're the ones that make those chocolate bunnies in the gold foiling. They argued that this signature gold foiling on its chocolate bunnies is protected by a trademark. Competitors did not agree, but this German court did agree. So they won the trademark patents. They had tried actually before to just patent the bunny. That did not fly, but the gold wrapping apparently does. And finally, with some animal news, 2 Sumatran tigers in Indonesia who tested positive for COVID-19 last month are showing signs of recovery after almost 2 weeks in treatment. The tigers both showed flu-like symptoms and a lack of appetite. Now, none of the zoo staff who has been working with them have shown any signs of COVID-19, but the zoo says they are now thinking about testing more of their animals. Back to you guys.
All right. We love the animal news. We hope they're okay, though.
Exactly.
Different kind of animal news than our cute pandas yesterday. All right, Matt, thank you so much. Coming up, voting rights are back in the spotlight on Capitol Hill today.
The massive For the People Act rally and the high-profile lawmakers who are expected to be there next.
Here's a fun one. It wasn't rain that stopped the Yankees-Orioles game last night. It was a cat. Apparently, the cat thought maybe he could help out the home team. During the 8th inning, the stray animal ran onto the field, delaying the game. Yankee Stadium grounds crews chased it for nearly 4 minutes before... Look at that picture. Before it ran out a side exit. With Baltimore in the lead 7-1, Yankee fans deemed the much-needed distraction the most valuable player of the game, chanting MVP as the cat was chased around the outfield. Okay, the pictures of them trying to grab it are so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh, my gosh. Look at that one gets me.
So then what happened? Like, did they just...
And then, I don't know, he ran out a side exit, and then they picked things up, and then they still lost.
Okay. Well, hopefully the cat, maybe it'll make her
there
an encore
Yeah.
tonight. I don't know. All right.
That was fun.
The Senate has started voting on amendments to the long-awaited bipartisan infrastructure deal. But as senators await the Congressional Budget Office cost analysis of the plan, the final vote tally remains up in the air. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell joins us now. So, Leanne, first, this bill was heavily negotiated by that bipartisan group of senators. What amendments have they adopted so far?
Good morning, Joe. So now this is the opportunity for the rest of the senators to have some say in this legislation, and that's what the amendment process is for. There were 3 amendments that were voted on. 2 of them passed and 1 of them failed. They need a very high threshold of 60 senators to pass. So the key there is things that would try to derail this legislation will not pass because it needs the support of 60 senators. So the 2 amendments that passed yesterday, they made some minor changes to the legislation, and they got the support of 90 senators. So they thought that they were good changes, Joe.
So what is the timeline right now for passing this infrastructure bill in the Senate? A question we like to ask you every day.
I know, timeline. That's what everyone wants to know, especially since this August recess is supposed to start at the end of the week. And that's when Leader Schumer hopes to have this wrapped up by. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell yesterday said on the floor there should be no artificial timeline. And Republicans really want to drag this out. Senator Mike Lee said that this legislation should take weeks. So it's very unclear. It depends. There's been almost 200 amendments that have been filed. Of course, all of those will not get votes, but there needs to be agreement between the leaders. And so it is, we don't know. It could take just this week, or it could drag into the next and maybe the week after, Joe.
And let's talk about one other possible snag for passing this bill. As we heard from Dasha at the top of the show, we know Senator Lindsey Graham announced he tested positive for COVID-19, even though he's vaccinated. Do we know what close contacts he's had, and could that have any impact on the vote?
Well, with just Senator Graham out, it won't have much of an impact. But the challenge is if more people become infected, and we know Senator Graham was on the Hill all last week having lunch with his Republican colleagues, talking to them in meetings, having a meeting with Senate Minority Leader McConnell. And then, Joe, on Saturday night, there was a party on Senator Joe Manchin's boat, which he calls a gathering. He lives on his boat here in Washington on the Potomac when he's here. And there was almost a dozen bipartisan members on that boat. They have been tested. Some of their test results have already come back negative, but it has caused these lawmakers to put masks on once again and get tested just to be safe. So far, no one else has been positive.
Just like much of the country. All right, Leanne, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Staying with Capitol Hill, it's the final week of the Texas special legislative session and a critical moment for Texas Democrats who broke quorum, as you probably remember, in Texas by going to Washington, D.C. This morning, they'll join a rally to urge Congress to pass federal voting right protections, along with more than 100 lawmakers from nearly 30 states. NBC News reporter Priscilla Thompson is there in D.C. Hi, Priscilla. Good morning. So tell us about this rally, who's expected to attend, and what exactly are they demanding?
Savannah, good morning. In just a short while, those Texas Democrats are going to march over to where we are from their hotel room, and they are going to be joined by more than 100 lawmakers from across the country, many of whom hailing from states that have already passed these more restrictive voting laws, like Georgia and Florida, for example. And they are going to be looking to continue calling for some sort of federal legislation on this issue. When those folks get here, they are going to be joined by U.S. senators, including Senator Amy Klobuchar, Senator Raphael Warnock, as well as Senator Cory Booker, folks who have been very vocal on this issue. And the name of the rally is Recess Can Wait, Democracy Can't. And that is really going to be their message today. If it means that these senators stay in session and cancel the August recess in order to pass the For the People Act, that's what these folks would like to see done. Savannah?
And Priscilla, I know this rally is just part of a week of voting rights events in the Capitol, all with a push for those goals that you just said. What can we expect in the coming days?
Yeah, so this rally is day 2 of this week of action being hosted by the Declaration for American Democracy. Tomorrow, they're going to be hosting a call-in where they're encouraging their supporters to call into the senator's office and tell them to cancel the recess in order to pass the For the People Act. And then they're going to be holding a number of events throughout the rest of the week, explaining what has changed in the Voting Rights Act since 1965, what's in the For the People Act, and why they feel like it is important for that legislation to become law. And so that's really what we're looking at for the rest of this week as sort of the Texas special session winds down and Congress prepares to go on recess here. Savannah?
And so, Priscilla, of course, as I mentioned at the top, we have these Texas Democrats in the Capitol. Back in Texas, though, the special session, the one that they left to break quorum, ends this week. So what happens next for these Democrats and the voting legislation that they've successfully blocked so far by leaving?
Well, that is the big question at this point. Those Texas Democrats can't stay in Washington, D.C. forever. They have full-time jobs in Texas. They have families that they want to see in Texas. And so it is very likely that they are going to have to go back and take a vote on these bills at some point. Governor Abbott has already said that when this special session ends, he will call another. We could see him do that as early as this Sunday, announce a special session that would likely start next month. And so it is very likely that if nothing changes at the federal level, these bills will be reintroduced in some form in the next special session. And Republican leaders in Texas have already signaled, while it may be delayed, these bills are going to pass. And so Democrats are really running out of options to stop this with no sort of federal backstop here. Savannah?
All right, Priscilla, thank you so much for your reporting here. And coming up, a deep dive into the mind of an Olympian.
How the media can affect our top athletes' mental health. We've got that story up next.
When Olympic athletes compete, the whole world watches. The intense public scrutiny and expectation to perform really puts a lot of pressure on them. Simone Biles is a cognitive scientist who studies how pressure can impact athletic performance and also how to fix it, how to work on it. She joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Such an important conversation to have, as we've seen so much happen really in this regard at these games. Of course, one of the big conversations here to start with is Simone Biles. Now, with Simone, I think this has been a really interesting conversation because I think she certainly has alluded to this being something that she was doing to prioritize her mental health, but also referenced this real syndrome that, of course, none of us mere mortals who are not gymnasts who can flip in the air are going to understand this condition called the twisties. But we just saw her within the last few hours win a bronze medal for her beam routine. What do you think that says just about the fact that she kind of took a step back when she needed to? She didn't go, even though she was at the games, and did what she needed to do in order to make that performance what it was. What does that say to you about prioritizing her mental and physical health?
Yeah, it was such a powerful moment. And I think really it sent an important signal, not just to other athletes, but to people across the world, that even the greatest of all times have to sometimes put their mental health at the forefront and take a step back. And gosh, what a hard thing to have to do.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that right there, I think, is one of the big things. What a hard thing to have to do, keeping in mind that, no one wants to win an Olympic medal as much as Simone Biles wants to win an Olympic medal. We all want to see her, but of course she wanted to as well. What do you think it is, not with the Simone case, but just in general for athletes? Of course, sometimes people are going to make mistakes, but with that kind of high pressure situation that can make people kind of walk us through what happens sometimes to these athletes when they're under this high pressure that kind of can make them freeze up.
Yeah, I mean, when all eyes are on you, you want to perform at your best. And certainly these athletes all want to win gold. But what my research and others have shown is that oftentimes that pressure causes you to actually try and control what you're doing in a way that's disruptive. It's sort of if I asked you to, as you're shuffling down the stairs, what you would do with your knee, you might stop and fall on your face. You don't think about it. And what we've seen with many athletes in pressure situations is they start thinking too much about the details of what they're doing, what others will think about them, what it means, and it actually disrupts their performance.
Right, absolutely. And let's also talk about the role that media and social media can play, especially when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to kind of getting under people's skin. I mean, we even saw Suni Lee, who of course won gold in the all around. Then she won a bronze medal. And after that, she said, I'm probably going to delete Twitter because she felt that it wasn't able to focus her enough, that she was seeing a lot of negativity there. What's the impact of these press conferences like we've seen Naomi Osaka take a stand against, of people talking on Twitter, which can kind of have this tendency to dwell on people's shortcomings, as again, us mere mortals are perceiving them, even though they're, of course, performing at this incredible level?
Well, one thing I want to say is we are mere mortals, but a lot of what's happening to these athletes happens to us just in smaller terms, right? if you have a public embarrassment and it's all over social media, or, people are asking you about a mistake, it's not fun to have to relive that in any situation. And so I think we can learn a lot from these athletes, and actually some of what they're doing to control the situation, to say, hey, I don't want to talk right now. Hey, I'm deleting Twitter. It's not helping my mental health. Really trying to take control of that situation. We can do that as people who are not on the Olympic stage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Such an important conversation. Mental health, always something that we can be talking about more. Sion, thank you so much for joining us, especially in the context of the Olympics.
Oh, happy to be here.
It is time now for our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you.
CNBC's Christina Partsinevelos joins us now. Hey, Christina, good morning.
Good morning. I want to start with Simone Property Group because they say sales at its malls and outlet centers bounced back to pre-pandemic levels in June and are up about 80% from a year ago. So the nation's largest mall owner hopes the improving trends will encourage tenants to sign new leases. Simon has been looking to fill spaces vacated by brands that either went bankrupt or had to close stores during the pandemic. Pearson, though, the largest publisher of college textbooks, is launching a subscription service for digital books. The Pearson Plus app will be available on campuses this fall. Students can pay $9.99 a month to access only one textbook, or $14.99 a month for access to the company's full library of more than 1,500 ebooks, as well as some study aids like flashcards. And the holiday shopping season could face some shipping delays and items that are out of stock. Recent floods in Europe and China are adding more pressure to already strained global supply chains. The disasters have damaged railways used to deliver goods and raw materials, as well as factories, warehouses, and machinery. Experts say Black Friday could see the brunt of the impact, with consumer electronics, clothes, and appliances in short supply. So hopefully that doesn't mean that we'll see prices increase because of the short supply, but you never know with Black Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I can't believe we're already talking about this. All right, Christina, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Coming up, more headaches for thousands of airline travelers as Spirit Airlines cancels hundreds of flights. So what's driving the litany of complaints against this industry? We will take a closer look up next. Welcome back. With COVID infections soaring, many companies are reassessing how and when they'll bring employees back to the office. For an increasing number of major employers, that means mandatory vaccines or at least regular testing. NBC News senior business correspondent Stephanie Rule joins us now. Hi, Stephanie. Good morning.
Hey there, Savannah. That's exactly right. With these COVID numbers up, businesses big and small are now reassessing. How do they keep their employees safe? How do they keep their customers safe? And for anyone out there who said, well, businesses, they can't mandate vaccines, they absolutely can. And many of them are. Take a look.
After the rush to get vaccinated, the number of shots going into arms plateaued in July. And now all eyes on businesses, which experts say could help sway tens of millions of unvaccinated Americans that are eligible for a shot, but still on the fence.
The differences between businesses acting and not acting right now is millions and millions of people. And I would dare say probably an end to this curve we're on with Delta.
The list of companies with some sort of requirement is growing. Facebook and New York's MTA among the latest, making them mandatory for employees or requiring regular testing. Equinox and Broadway theaters will also require both workers and patrons get a shot. Walmart, America's biggest employer, is also requiring them, but only for corporate employees, a fraction of its nearly 1.6 million person workforce. That means frontline workers are exempt from the mandate. Uber has a similar policy. Office workers will be required. Rideshare drivers will not.
The most important thing that can happen now would be the business community stepping forward and saying, if you're going to be in our place of business, you're going to be vaccinated or have a good reason not to and show a negative test.
But for many businesses, the FDA's full approval is key.
They're going to say, once we get full authorization for the use of this vaccine, you're going to do it or you won't be able to work here.
A green light many are waiting for as cases grow by the day.
Savannah, keep in mind, this is the third phase of getting America vaccinated. The government developed the vaccine, made it available. Health experts educated us. And now businesses, they hold the carrot to get so many people out there vaccinated.
Think about it. If you want to go back to your life, you want to go back to work, you want to go to the gym, you want to go to your favorite restaurant, more and more businesses are saying, sure, come on over, just get vaxxed.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I'm sure that will not be without controversy, though. Stephanie Roll, thank you so much. Thousands of Spirit Airlines passengers faced canceled flights on Monday.
That's adding to the growing pressure on the nation's airlines. NBC News correspondent Tom Costello joins us now from Reagan National Airport with more. Tom, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. So they canceled 40% of their flights yesterday, Spirit canceling another 30% today.
Wow.
The airline is blaming operational issues, staffing, and weather issues. But, you know, we've seen this over the last few weeks and months. All airlines struggling to recover from the post-pandemic surge. And we've also got a lot of complaints. Passengers saying they're being bumped from their flights and rescheduled without even asking their permission.
A cry for help from Spirit Airlines passengers, with the airline canceling 40% of flights on Monday, leaving thousands stranded in airports nationwide. Spirit has not responded to NBC News' request for comment, but tells USA Today weather and operational issues are to blame. Marissa Kingham has spent 2 days trying to get her 15-year-old son, now stranded in Philadelphia, home to Fort Lauderdale.
He's traveling alone. I didn't want him to be left at the airport where he could just potentially be sitting in a terminal for delay after delay after delay.
The summer travel surge fueling frustration and anger as many airlines have rebooked passengers without asking, and customers forced to wait for hours just to talk to a representative on the phone. Florida doctor Scott Fosco booked tickets to Idaho for a family wedding, only to have the airline change his tickets twice.
You feel like you're doing all the right things, and then you have this business entity in Delta that's treating customers in a way that you can't believe it's happening. It makes no sense.
Delta Airlines concedes it's struggling to meet the post-COVID demand, juggling planes and crews, and admitting it doesn't have enough customer service reps. It comes as tempers are flaring in the skies, with a fistfight breaking out between passengers on an American Airlines flight from New Orleans to Austin on Sunday. American Airlines says law enforcement was requested when the plane landed in Austin due to an altercation, but Austin police say they made no arrests.
Yeah, listen to this statistic. The biggest flight attendants union says it just surveyed its members. 85% report dealing with unruly passengers just this year. 85%. And nearly 20% say they have been dealing as well with a physical altercation on board, not unlike what we just saw. If this continues, according to the president of the union for the flight attendants, we will see more incidents this year of this type of behavior than in the entire history of aviation.
Oh, my goodness.
Guys, back to you.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a stat.
Yeah, it begs the question, what's
Thanks,
the solution?
Tom.
Which we'll have to sort of wait and see.
Yeah.
What will get people to change their ways.
Yeah, absolutely. This happened to my parents yesterday. They were visiting for the weekend.
Not a fight.
Not a fight, yeah. Thank goodness. They were not involved in anything like that. No, their flight was canceled, and it was like about a half hour before takeoff, and it was because the plane didn't have a flight crew. It's like, how do you not know that until half an hour before people are supposed to take off?
Now you have more time with your family.
Yeah. They've gone now, and they did successfully take off.
You got a little more time.
You got a guest room. It's all good.
That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.